It's the holiday special, and Mark and Brian are gonna discuss holidays like basic and Christmas here on the Baptist and the Buddhist. Oh, the holiday show starts now. Oh, the holiday show starts now. They've got big fat stacks of notes to attack. It's too much information to handle. Oh, they'll try to explain things about their faith in an incoherent ramble. It's the holiday special, and Mark and Brian are gonna discuss holidays like basic and Christmas here on the Baptist and the Buddhist. Oh, the holiday show starts now. Oh, the holiday show starts now.
Hey everybody, this is the Baptist
And the Buddhist.
with Mark,
And Brian.
and you may have noticed that we are in a little festive mood. This is the holiday special.
I just like strange hats, so I don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
I just like ugly sweaters.
It's
Though
September, to be honest.
And yes, for those of you who are listening this beautiful Christmas morning, we're recording this in September, so this is we're a little out of our element, but we are going all in. I have my cocoa with sprinkles and everything, so
I have warm water.
and obviously we are talking about holidays here. So this is our holiday special episode. This is the 16th episode, holiday special.
The holiday special.
Perfectly
we're not gonna
timed for
have
your holiday enjoyment.
We're not gonna have any weird like Wookiee scenes. No subtitles.
Wait a second, you didn't say that, man. And that awesome intro that you made, that was not our usual intro.
It's the special holiday intro.
We are going all out.
We are.
Yeah. Yep. So holidays.
Yes.
And with the talk of holidays, just a forewarning, I'm not just going to talk about the winter holiday. I'm also going to touch on a little bit of another holiday that Christianity will usually see, and that's for a specific reason I want to bring up probably. So,
and following that, I'm also not going to talk about only winter holidays. So
fair enough.
I think we are in good company.
Yeah, and when we say this is the holiday special, we don't mean it's the Christmas winter holiday special episode. It means we're talking about holidays.
Yep, that's the topic of this episode.
And it just happens to be released on Christmas Day. So
yeah, arbitrarily.
Yeah, we're just this weird that we like decorated for this kind of.
As I said, I love strange, unusual hats.
I didn't even know you were gonna wear it. Just kidding. Oh man, where to begin?
I think we should probably start with the elephant in the room. Christmas.
Yeah, I mean that has almost nothing to do with elephants unless you're doing a white elephant auction. But see, I brought it back. Yeah, follow us, guys. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook. We are now on Twitter. We are on almost every podcast app out there. I just double checked, and I think we are short one.
Finally.
Yeah, Apple, Google. We're almost on TuneIn, Alexa, Amazon stuff. So, yeah, follow us everywhere. Email us too at baptistandbuddhist@gmail.com. And just hit us up. Tell us about your holidays. What are you guys doing? Is there anything cool that happened? Anything bad that happened?
What are your customs and traditions, and what do you like to do? What do you like to eat?
there's a lot of food happening in most holidays around the calendar year. So
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. And especially during the winter holiday season, there's a lot of cheeses.
it's just
Like
so much cheese.
cheeses for Jesus. I just made that up. Um, I was gonna say something about that. What are your plans for this holiday season, Brian? Or Brian?
My holiday plans.
What are you doing today?
Oh, I have no idea. Uh,
Family and fun and
food, you know,
food and other stuff. Yeah.
festivities.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to put you on the spot like that. Festivities. Yeah, there's the other F. So,
What are you doing?
Christmas. Oh, family and friends and
Oh yeah, okay.
probably fighting the snow.
And family,
Yep.
fighting family.
Fighting family. Fun. Anyways, you could tell this is a very special episode, guys. So, Christmas, the elephant in the room, Christmas. Like, where do I even begin with that? Why do Christians celebrate Christmas? And obviously, Christmas is not just a Christian thing anymore because there are tons of other non-Christian people that celebrate Christmas in a more traditional sense with Santa Claus and presents and the Christmas tree,
I think that's a
everything like
good.
that. But
I
what?
think that's a good point to make. Is that a lot of the holidays that have religious, you know, origins have become cultural
Very much so.
celebrations
Hmm.
as well.
Very much so, and it's really turning into just a season of this spirit, as we call it, this season spirit, the spirit of the season. Like people just, it's just for some reason we made it a culturally wonderful time,
And
and it's probably for the best.
I
For the
think it
best.
really is. I love the holiday season. It's
Me
like one of
too.
my favorite times of the year, and I think there's a lot of synchronicity with the holidays and winter and like the winter solstice, and I think it's just like from a human standpoint, it's natural because it's cold, it's miserable, and we are coming together as people, um basically saying, we're gonna get through this. Here's some cheese. um and we share food, we give people gifts. There's a lot of generosity.
Hmm.
uh when when you uh pull back the thick wrapping paper of commerce and consumption that has kind of eclipsed some of the original, more heartfelt meaning. um
Right.
but it's just such a wonderful time, and I always say there needs to be a second Christmas in February when everything's gray and nothing's fun and you're just tired of the snow and the salt. and
Hmm.
and
Well,
I,
not
I
everyone, not everyone has to experience that, but
not
for
everyone,
us
but
that do.
for the Midwest and the upper
Yeah.
Midwest
And then,
especially.
yeah, exactly.
I think it's, I advocate to make Groundhog Day uh a huge, like, ending of winter holiday. um
Interesting that you bring up Groundhog Day. There is a Catholic holiday called Candlemas around that
yeah,
time.
and pagans actually celebrate that as well in the form of Imbolg,
Hmm.
um which is where I kind of got the idea, hey, we should have a more serious holiday in February around Imbolg or Candlemas. um it's like, especially the candle, there's light, there's light at the end of this tunnel. It's like,
Hmm.
yay, winter's gonna end
In a month or
soon.
two or
Yeah,
three.
and I
Yeah,
just love it.
that's a very good uh that's a that's true because like it does get kind of depressing afterwards, but um maybe that's just mm, us taking this holiday season like way too closely, and like we just love it so much that we hate to lose it.
That is true too. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Christmas, yeah, again, there's definitely like a secular cultural like celebration, but like why do Christians celebrate this thing called Christmas? And it's usually because we're celebrating Jesus's birthday. Happy birthday, Jesus. Um, I told you there's going to be surprises this
Oh my
episode.
gosh, that was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus' birthday is usually, or, Jesus' birth is what we celebrate, what Christians celebrate. Not really his birthday, and I'll get into that a lot more. But I mean, I'm not going to get into a ton of the history because I think anyone can look it up, um, for for the birth of Christ, like the whole history of Christmas. It started, by the Romans basically in like 300, sometime in the 380s. And they wanted to replace pagan winter solstice celebrations with a Christian celebration. Um, I don't know a whole lot about the history, and I don't really care too much, but that's what I know of the history of Christmas. But I know also that Jesus was not born on that day in a manger. He was not born on December 25th. Um, it's just the day that we celebrate Jesus's birth is a tradition of men. Really, we just adopted this holiday for our own to celebrate Jesus' birthday. And there's nowhere in the Bible that tells us to celebrate his birthday. There's really nowhere in the Bible that tells us to celebrate his birth like at all. It just tells about his birth and boom, that's it. I mean, it was prophesied, it happened, and that's really it. They don't really mention it after it. I think maybe it's because it doesn't really matter. But I have this really interesting reading that I've kept on my phone for years, and I think it was written by my Bible Institute dean, good friend of mine, and I think he wrote this snippet. I don't remember if he did or not, but I know he shared it once with me, and it's kind of lengthy, so I'll just kind of summarize in some parts. But it's an interesting read regarding Christ's birth and the time of year, and what time of year. Um, we'll look at it because there's a difference in the time of year that we're looking at of when his birth might have been. But really, it starts out quoting Luke 1:5, saying there was in the days of Herod the king of Judea a certain priest named Zacharias of the course of Abiah. Yeah, actually, now that I think of it, this might be part of the teachings that we read through for the classes in Bible Institute. This might have been in the Luke series that we did. So sum it all to some, because this is pretty long. I'm just gonna kind of paraphrase here. So Abiah was a character in the Old Testament, where he was a priest who ministered in the tabernacle. So they had all their sacrifices and ordinances and everything through the tabernacle. Um, during the days of King David, before the temple was built. So the tabernacle was a big tent, basically, that was a precursor to the stone temple that they built, the golden temple that they built. So Abiah was the leader of a course of priests who burnt incense in the tabernacle. First Chronicles, in the book of First Chronicles, King David appointed 24 courses of priests, and this kind of goes down to there's one guy that would do this course, which is about a month and a half, um, for 15 days, basically, they would burn this incense or whatever their job was to do in the tabernacle, and they would do it every year at the same time. So if someone had, the first 15 days of the first month, they would have that same time slot next year. Um, so the Jewish calendar is not exactly what the Gregorian solar calendar is. Jewish calendar is based off of the lunar cycles, which is still in effect today with with Jewish and Israeli practices and everything. It begins in April basically and ends in March, like the Jewish year does. There's Nisan, Zif, Sivan, Tammuz, Ab, uh, Elul, Tishri. um, I might be skipping a few, but Chislu and Sabat and Adar. These are I think these are the months we're talking about here. So talking about Jesus's birth, like, okay, how does this help us figure out like when Jesus might have been born? Well, it's interesting. Jesus has a cousin that was 6 months older than Jesus, and Mary met up with his cousin's mother. Um, what was her name? Elizabeth. So Mary, Jesus's mother, met up with Elizabeth, and John, Jesus's cousin, actually leapt in the womb when they were close, like when the two mothers met up. Uh, but here in let's see, Elizabeth was barren, but then she was pregnant with John. So the course of Abiah, that guy in the Old Testament that did this service in the tabernacle, he did the 8th course of the priests, which was during the second half of the 4th month of the Jewish calendar, which is the month of Tammuz, which is around July for the Gregorian calendar. So Zacharias, John's father, was actually serving in the temple during this course, because he was after the course of Abiah. So it would have been around like July 16th until the end of July, basically, like the last half of July. So we can see from the account of in Luke, Luke chapter 1, that Elizabeth actually conceives John as soon as Zacharias completed his course. So like right after July, early August, they conceived John. And then, so we know that conception date, and then we can add basically roughly 9 months to the date given for the completion of Zacharias' ministry. John the Baptist would have been probably born around May 1st on our calendar. And so Jesus's approximate date of birth would have been probably around November 1st. Or around the 1st of November, around that time of the year. So basically that kind of sums it up, like when Jesus would have been born according to this study, with the course of the priests and everything. It's kind of interesting, especially when you look into like some more angelology stuff and how Satan works in the world, because Satan doesn't work in the world through like fleshly things, because man already has that covered. He works through the world through more like religious or spiritual deceptions. And in that commentary, it mentions how it's interesting that the day that a lot of cultures might celebrate, like the dead or a spiritual like a spiritual closeness from the realm of the spirits to our realm, like through the Day of the Dead or whatever, or even like with this culture with Halloween and all the the dark scary stuff, and how it, that commentary states how it's interesting that that's contrasted to like Jesus being born at the same like at the around the same time. So I thought that was interesting. Obviously not December 25th, um, but we can still say happy birthday, Jesus. um, and so Christmas is what it is. It's time to celebrate Jesus' birth. To me, it's not a, I mean, and to a lot of other Christians, it's not a fundamental celebration. Because again, we're not told to do it. It's not mentioned in the Bible. It's just something we do. And it's something that some Christians don't do. Some Christians do not celebrate holidays, especially with like kind of like man invented holidays. And I wanted to kind of reference this verse as well, because like is it bad to celebrate holidays like this because we're not told to? um is it good to? And maybe it is. Maybe maybe it's not, like, to me it's not a bad thing. The Bible says, and I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it. The Bible says that God, basically, he doesn't give any respect to celebrations, and the Bible talks about like new moons and stuff like that. So he doesn't really, it doesn't really affect him, especially in this age of grace. All things are lawful, but are all things expedient? That's another issue. So some some cultures, even some people in my circles, I know personally some people that do not celebrate Christmas. They don't do the Christmas tree because people think weird things about Christmas trees, that it's like an idol or something. I don't think they really understand the history of the Christmas tree in that respect. But and all things are lawful. The Bible talks about eating meats um, sacrificed unto idols. You can still eat them. Um, it, it's I think it's more of a personal choice. I know some people in my circles that celebrate Passover and other Jewish holidays, which I think those holidays are cool and have some relevance to a biblical standpoint. It's not necessary, um, and it's it's not commanded. It's not. I don't think it's an important uh, like debate, if you will, in the Christian circles, which they do very much debate about it. Myself personally, I celebrate Christmas. We do it, you know, out of culture, out of kind of a biblical respect. Our church will celebrate Christmas and have all the festivities and remembering and looking back at the birth of Christ and what that meant to the world. Um, but it's not a fundamental value that we hold close. And some people will despise Christmas um, because of the uh, like the Catholic or even the paganistic origin of it. And some people will, like, going back to like the Halloween kind of area, some people will celebrate Reformation Day instead of Halloween, where they'll dress up as like in the Reformation Day era clothing and basically do Halloween that way. Um, I'm not from, like, being a Baptist, we're not really from the Reformation, but it had a huge impact on the world and probably a lot of influence on the Baptists anyway. So I don't celebrate Reformation Day, but you could probably fit in. I mean, you could probably make up a new Christmas around that day based off of the study of the courses of the priests, I guess. make it Christmas Day on Halloween or something. I don't know. But really, it holidays. I think you should grasp it with your own understanding and your own personal decisions on that from a Christian standpoint. Um, what else should I say about Christmas? I mean, I guess a lot of people will fit in Christmas like practices with biblical things, like all the gifts are given to family members, like the gifts of the wise men, which actually funny thing about that, like the wise men, everyone portrays the nativity scene with the shepherds coming and the wise men coming and kneeling before this newborn baby. But that's probably not accurate because the wise men came from, I forgot where they came from. Um, but historians think they were Zoroastrians.
I was
That
just about to say they were they coming from Persia or
Yeah, I believe something like that. Yeah, and they were scholars of like prophecy and probably were looking for the signs because there were signs and the prophecies were trackable and you could trace it. And they saw the star uh, that the prophecies mentioned. They followed the prophetical footsteps, if you will. Bethlehem of Ephrata that the book of Micah talks about, and they found this baby. They didn't find the baby; they found him as a young child. So it was probably a little after his birth, maybe a year or two after his birth, and they brought these gifts. Um, so it wasn't the day he was. It probably wasn't the day or the night that he was born that they showed up, but it's a common misconception. So I know some people that will have their nativity scene set up with the figurines, and the wise men will be like on the other side of the room, still traveling or something.
that's awesome.
I don't think I've done that with a nativity scene yet, but um, um, what else about Christmas? I love there's some Christmas movies we could talk about. There's one that's relevant to the nativity, to the well, it's called The Nativity Story or The Nativity. I forgot what it was, but that was a really good like portrayal of the birth of Jesus and what Mary and Joseph had to go through. Um, and the wise men, they did have the wise men show up that birth date, but they were the comic relief of the show, of the movie, so that was pretty funny.
Hmm.
Stars Oscar Isaac, and that's the only actor I know from that. There's another holiday that I think Christians will say that needs more emphasis than Christmas, and that is the resurrection of Christ, and that's Easter. I mean, we some Christians won't call it Easter because of that pagan name, um, but I'm not afraid to call it Easter, and I know like the leadership from our church is not afraid to call it Easter because that's the time of the year it is. Um, but we will celebrate the not the death or the burial of Christ, but the resurrection of Christ, because that's what matters. Because without his resurrection, his death would have been just a death and it would have been in vain. But because he was resurrected, that brought it, the Bible says that it justified our resurrection. Like, because he was resurrected, we can be resurrected too. So we celebrate usually, Easter Day. It's based off of the lunar calendar, so it's never the same. Sometimes it lands on our birthday, which my kids have not realized. They have not figured out that it's not always on my birthday yet. Because my dad's so lucky. Easter's on his birthday. I'm like, not every year. I think one of my kids just told someone that too the other day, like last week or something like that.
Yeah, my birthday
Um,
changes.
yeah, and it's gonna end up on one of my kids' birthdays one of these days, actually. Um, but with Easter, we're still not we're still not told to celebrate Easter on Easter Day, the Resurrection Day. It's, and again, something more traditionalistic that we do. Um, and one thing I did want to bring up with that, with Easter, is you always see um, what comes before Easter. A couple days before, there's Good Friday, which sometimes people get the day off for Good Friday. Um, but from my understanding, Friday is not the day he was crucified, because that's what they say, is that Jesus was crucified on Friday and Saturday, and then on Sunday morning he rose from the grave, because it says, the Bible says 3 days. Well, actually, it says 3 nights and 3 days. Um, but I don't think it was 3 days. And is this important? Probably not. But I have a whole sheet, a whole diagram explaining why not. I'm not going to go through it all, but um, but it's interesting because I've seen in my studies about this, I've seen um, Jewish material trying to debunk the resurrection of Jesus because he wasn't crucified on Friday. And they would say that's like he wasn't crucified on Friday. So like Good Friday is not a thing and resurrection is not a thing. And they'll say because the Bible says and the prophecy says 3 days and 3 nights. That literally means 3 days and 3 nights in that vernacular, in the uh in the Jewish uh phrasing, if you will. Which I've seen the opposite argument made for that very reason as well, because they'll say, well, 3 days and 3 nights means just part of a day, and then a whole day in between, so it can be Friday. But I've seen Jewish sources disagree with that, saying no, like Jewish tradition would be, if it's 3 days and 3 nights, it's actually 3 days and 3 nights. And then if they say a day, it could be part of a day. But they say, since it's that specific, he was crucified on probably Wednesday night, or Wednesday, according to the Jewish calendar, because the days start during the 6 p.m. like area of the night before, which like in my chart, Passover starts on Wednesday of Nisan 14, the 14th day of Nisan, the month of Nisan. There's a preparation day before that. He goes to the garden that night on Wednesday night, goes into the morning. He was taken to trial and everything. And then when it becomes Wednesday day, he was crucified at the 6th hour. There was darkness. Actually, I think it was the 3rd hour he was crucified. Around the 6th hour, there was darkness. And then he died right around like 6 p.m., like around the nighttime of Thursday. Um, and so he was buried that night, Thursday night. Um, and then there was a high Sabbath that was happening on that Thursday. Um, so the Bible talks about him like it was a Sabbath, and they say, oh, that means it was Saturday that he was buried. But the Bible specifically says it was a high Sabbath. That means one of their holidays, and that was actually the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, which on Passover, that's when they were doing going back to the Lord's Supper and communion on one of our episodes. Like they were celebrating Passover with the bread and the wine. Like that's what they were doing. They were preparing and doing Passover and everything. All of that, the whole celebration. Like this is a Jewish celebration time period as well, not just Easter, or like not just like a pagan holiday for Istar or whatever it's called. It was
I do want to. So when you mentioned the Easter, like the pagan aspect of it, I see this float around Easter on social media all the time. How it relates back to Ishtar, and I
yeah.
just, I just want to say that's patently false, and like it's not related to Ishtar in any way. who is like an Assyrian goddess,
Right.
and it's just linguistically it is not related at all. So
So, like, what is Easter?
it comes from, if I remember, a Proto-Indo-European word that might that some people relate to some kind of spring goddess of some sort.
Hmm.
Um, but I can't remember exactly the real the etymology of it, except that it goes back to some Proto-Indo-European word and not at all relates to Ishtar, which comes from
Interesting.
a different etymological origin.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. Maybe we could hit this up on the Easter special, even though I'm going through it right now. But yeah, it was a high day for the Jewish unleavened bread ceremony or celebration, I should say. Um, 3 days and 3 nights pass, and on the third day, because he spent it because the nights and days are reversed in the Jewish day, so he was buried one night, one day, second night, second day, third night, third day, and then he rose, probably in that later part of the day or the early part of the night of what would be Saturday. So it was probably around or after 6 p.m. on that Saturday, um, which would be early Sunday for us, for our purposes. So 3 days and 3 nights, and that's just I mean that's just details, details here. You guys can check it out, screenshot it or whatever.
I love that you actually have charts. Mhm.
Yeah, I've had that one for a while. I made that one years and years ago for a Bible study I was doing.
Oh wow.
Um, so maybe I can slip it in the show notes. But yeah, I mean, Easter, almost everyone I know will do the Easter eggs and all that stuff. And, I think there are definitely some Christians that won't do that because of whatever um, traditions they're afraid of. But I think there's a lot of discernment in the age of grace that we don't have to be afraid of doing things because we want to. There are things that we shouldn't do because we we don't want to, and one, we shouldn't do. But there's nothing really against, celebrating and having fun with family and remembering, especially in a Christian setting like the resurrection of Jesus. And, we have services at church for the resurrection Sunday and everything, and we don't lose sight of that. And it's all part of the celebration. Um,
As an aside, um, about Easter and about Christmas as well, like the the pagan side of it, um, especially with Easter, and you have the Easter eggs and flowers and pastel colors and stuff. Um, you know, not going to talk about candy because that's a uh, whole different thing. But um, like people who might be like afraid of those quote unquote pagan traditions, um, I think I don't know if it'll alleviate the concerns, but like those traditions stem from like an agricultural based, you know, early society where the turning of the year is instrumental to survival. And so these what started out as probably reminders of Oh yeah, it's it's winter solstice. It's the longest night of the year. Um, and from here on out, the days get longer, and we get closer to the warmer, more abundant time of the year. And same with spring. It's oh yay, flowers are blooming. All this stuff. Like we can finally breathe a sigh of relief that we made it through winter. Like
Hmm.
all the pagan traditions maybe get mythologized a little in the process, but like it's just it's just commemorating the changing of the seasons, and from a very human standpoint of, am I going to be able to grow food,
Right.
So they're very like, maybe from your perspective it's a tradition of man or whatever or something, and but it really is, it's like a human thing to want to celebrate that, oh yes, finally we've made it through the longest night of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times too, I see even like this kind of goes back to I don't know, I don't want to say cosmology, but like we see, and I hear this a lot from Christian circles, like the cycles of the seasons and everything, and the stars and everything too, and the constellations will point to like a biblical story. Obviously with like winter and spring, you see like the death and resurrection and everything, and like seeing the like in the dead of winter we celebrate the baby born, like that's the savior of the world, and like it gives us hope through the winter too. So like it brings some comfort in the dead of winter, even
and
though
it
it's not the day that
and
Jesus is born.
it mirrors like the idea of the rebirth of the sun, like in a lot of different pagan celebrations. And I don't know if this lends like a reason why the 25th was chosen, but I think up in like the northern hemisphere, like way up north, uh on the winter solstice, where it's the longest night of the year, you have this period of 3 days where the sun barely rises, or maybe even doesn't even rise at all. And then you have that rebirth after almost the resurrection. After 3 days the sun comes back up, and you're like, whew, we made it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that yeah, I don't know why, besides like the Romans wanting to like, or the Roman Catholic Church wanting to, I don't want to say like hijack a seasonal celebration, or like just make their own, if you will. Um, and they just chose the birth of Christ because hey, we don't have a celebration for that yet or something. I don't know the history on that exactly, but that's Christmas in a nutshell for me.
I think the placement of the celebration, some people will be like, oh, they were trying to hijack pagan, but like really you can see it in modern day a little bit, like um modern, there's like several different holidays that have come about um around the same winter holiday season,
Yeah, that's very true.
because there are holidays around this time of year.
Right, yeah.
And I
Yeah, it
think
wasn't like Kwanzaa um kind of birth out of that idea, Festivus. No.
I think the Hindu Panchaganapati, which is a celebration of, I think it's a celebration of Ganesha, um, is a more modern holiday that was, I'm pretty sure that was chosen to be a winter holiday. Um, and I can't say that they chose it because, oh, we want a winter holiday or something, but like because of the winter festivities, it works. And so it's not like trying to usurp the winter holiday. It's just adding to,
Making your own.
yeah, it's like there's this great festive season, but there's nothing pertaining, like pertinent to our traditions.
Right.
Yeah. So it's we can share, we can share
Yeah, and we do.
calendar
I
and
mean, there's
space.
tons of celebrations around this time of the year. So yeah, what about yours?
So that's where it gets interesting. Oh, I mean, Buddhism definitely has holidays, but the the biggest holiday, the biggest Buddhist holiday, is usually called Vesak or Vesak. Um, my pronunciation is probably a little rusty, but Vesak is like the Christian Christmas and Easter and something else rolled into one. And it's usually on it. Well, it is on the the full moon day in May, so not anywhere near this time of the year.
Hmm.
But uh, Vasic is the celebration of the birth, the enlightenment, and the death of the Buddha. So you get the elements of like Christmas and Easter in there,
Hmm.
um, in a way. Uh, just kind of comparing and contrasting. But there are other. Uh, I mean, it really, really depends on where you are in the world, which country, which uh, Buddhist uh, tradition you follow, when when and uh, when things are celebrated. There are some traditions in countries that have a certain day for the Buddha's birth, have a certain day for the Buddha's enlightenment, and has a certain day for the Buddha's death. So you do get it kind of spread out a little more.
Hmm.
Um, but Vasic is the only Buddhist holiday uh, observed by the United Nations. So I think it kind of like it's made into the Buddhist holiday.
Hmm.
Um, and it's interesting to see how Vasic is played out in a modern day setting. And it can be festive. It doesn't Buddhist holidays don't get nearly as festive, it seems, as the holiday season in the West. But um, traditionally, you'll dedicate the the holiday, uh, the day of observance, I guess, of to deepened practice. A lot of people will take 24-hour, 8 precepts, uh, sometimes called 24-hour vows. And these 8 precepts are like the 5 precepts that most lay Buddhists take, plus a few others that you try to adhere to for 24 hours. And uh, the added ones are like you refrain from entertainment and music, um, and adornments, perfumes and whatnot, and uh, also you'll refrain from sitting on luxurious beds or chairs,
Hmm.
um, and also you will you will refrain from eating after noon. Uh, so you're kind of almost practicing a very basic monastic lifestyle for a day, where you don't eat afternoon, you don't indulge in entertainment and music, and you don't adorn yourself. And a lot of people will actually just like wear white, like all white, as
Well,
kind
that
of a
sounds
sign
like
of
that's the
practice.
reason why it's not as festive.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, oh, our holidays, yeah, like food, no.
I mean, that almost reminds me of the Catholic Lent. I mean, it's not just Catholic, it also is in a lot of Protestant practices as well. We don't celebrate or, observe Lent or anything. Some people might, but I don't think we see a whole lot. But I know the day before Lent is for the northern Polish culture. It's Punchki Day. It's when we have those big fatty donuts. So good. I do celebrate that.
um, and I've heard um also another kind of tradition for, I mean, you don't have to uh, observe these 8 precepts. People who are, people who want to can. It's a great opportunity to deepen your practice. And some people will choose to, like, eat a vegetarian meal, and if they eat meat, um, which for a lot of modern Western Buddhists, that's not a problem because a lot of them are already vegetarian. Some of them aren't. Um,
Hmm.
and there's a tradition that I see a lot in that, uh, especially in like temples and stuff. There will be a kind of a tradition, a ceremony where you will take the baby Buddha statue like that, and you'll bathe it. So you'll scoop some water and, like, gently pour it over it because it's celebrating the Buddha's birth. So you'll be doing this, and I've seen videos and stuff of people at the temple doing this. Each person gets a ladle full of water to pour, and it's fun. What else about basic can I say? I mean, in Tibetan uh tradition, I mean, there's a lot to be said about Tibetan tradition with holidays because they seem to have a lot more different observances, but or at least kind of different. I don't know. But they call basic in Tibetan is called Sagadawa, and it's, I mean, from my experience, it's the same thing.
Mm.
But that's I have more experience experiencing Tibetan Sagadawa in person than I do like a Theravada Vasic, but um, it's it's really one of the same. Um,
Mm.
there is a Buddhist holiday in December, um, but it's not celebrated normally from Theravada cultures. I don't think. I've never heard it being celebrated by them. A lot of times it's like from in Japan, um, and in Japan I think it's called Rohatsu, and in in the West you will hear it referred to as Bodhi Day, and it's generally December 8th. Again, it depends on the country and the culture. Sometimes people, Bodhi Day is celebrated in April instead of December. So it really depends on which country and which culture and calendar you're going off of. Um, and I don't know too much about Bodhi Day. I remember seeing some people say, "Oh, you can take a tree and decorate it with colorful lights," and I'm like, "That sounds familiar."
Mm.
Because Bodhi Day is celebrating the enlightenment of the Buddha specifically. So you
That was under
decorate,
a Bodhi tree.
yeah, you decorate a tree symbolizing the Bodhi tree and the lights.
Hmm.
I've heard people
As
say
enlightenment.
well, that, yeah. Um, but
Hmm.
some people say, oh, the different colors of lights represent uh, different approaches to the Dhamma, um,
Hmm.
because everyone understands it differently or something. I don't know. I don't know how traditional in any of that is, but I can see its merit.
So, do you practice or celebrate any of these holidays specifically, or is there anything specific that you do?
Um, I do uh observe Vasic, never to the extent of dressing in white and taking the 8 precepts. Although I tried this last year, I didn't dress in white or anything, and um, because my Tibetan temple will usually offer the 8 precepts and say, "Oh, wear white and come hang out all day, meditating." But of course,
Hmm.
with the pandemic, they didn't do that.
All
So
right, yeah.
I was like, okay, I'll try it myself. But I'm not prepared to fast for that long in a day. I wanted to, but
Fasting is a good topic.
yeah, but things kind of life got in the way, um,
Yeah.
but I did take the day off and set it aside, and you want a lot of times on um actually I'm gonna hold off on saying what I was gonna say until I bring my next point up. Um, because you can see a trend where Buddhist holidays aren't necessarily as, I don't know, colorful. Well, they can be colorful. They can be festive, they can be fun, but they're not indulgent like a lot of holidays are. And there's a tradition in Buddhism that it's not necessarily a holiday because it happens very frequently, but you can almost see it as almost like a Sabbath, a Buddhist Sabbath, which
Hmm.
it's called Uposatha. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's these observance days that happen depending on your calendar, whichever calendar or culture or country you're going off of, happens probably 3 or 4 times a month. So basically, you can kind of see it as once a week. Um, and although there's very, like in the suttas, the Buddha mentions specific days, which actually coincide with the full moon, the new moon, and the quarter moons. And these days, he encourages specifically these days to be set aside as practice days. A lot of people will take the 8 precepts, will dedicate the day to practice and reading the suttas and all that stuff. So it's when I think of Buddhist holidays, the Uposatha comes up in my mind, even though it's kind of like talking about like a Sabbath or something.
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and I feel like there are other. I mean, there's so many other different like festival days in Buddhism. You'll see a lot of uh, like the Tibetan temple will celebrate the Tibetan New Year, and that's always really a fun event. Um, we haven't I haven't been to one of those since before the pandemic, so
Hmm.
but and Sakadawa gets celebrated in person when there's no pandemic, and there's all these different festival days of when the Buddha ascended into Tashita heaven to teach uh, his his mother who died in basically in childbirth, giving birth to him,
Hmm.
and festivals of like miracles and like you there's all these different celebrations of different parts in the story of the Buddha's life. I think there's even I saw recently they there was a day they were celebrating his first Dhamma talk, his first sermon, and that also brings me to kind of I'm really veering off of the holiday and just kind of like talking about like moments of importance in Buddhist practice. And one that is very important to monastics is, I think it's called Vasa, and it's the period in the year that monastics are supposed to go in to retreat. And you hear it a lot of times referred to as the rainy seasons, because in India, during the span, I think it's from July or August to November or December. I don't know. I should probably look that up. But in India, they have the monsoon seasons where it's just too rainy to travel like the monastics traditionally would do, which they would constantly travel from different monasteries and everything, and the rain is just too much for them. So the Buddha prescribed them a period of about 3 months or so during the rainy season to to really devote to meditation practice in retreat. And monastics to this day, you know, observe that retreat season, and it's pretty cool to see some of the like live stream videos of the monastics, you know, doing their chants and stuff, like beginning the retreat season. It's like, wow, this is pretty cool. But yeah, Vasa, Uposatha, basic.
That's interesting because, like, you mentioned like not necessarily holidays, but like almost like like times to like of like remembrance or reflection,
Yeah.
and like it reminds me of like other, again, mainly probably Catholic. Um, there are so many other like celebrations or holidays that they might celebrate with, even with like things dealing with the Virgin Mary, and other things, like Candlemas, I already mentioned. And they will do Lent, and um, leading up to, I think they do Ash Wednesday, which starts Lent, which is, time of fasting or refraining from something. Usually they're not supposed to eat meats for whatever reason. And then fishermen were suffering. So it's like, okay, you can eat fish on Wednesdays, or on Fridays. Um, and like they have just a ton of other different days of remembrance or celebration. Even like looking at like the Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't celebrate holidays, but like for the Resurrection Sunday time, they do have a remembrance service where they will remember Jesus. And it's kind of like a solemn day for them because, oh, Jesus was killed on the stake. It wasn't a cross. According to the Jehovah's Witnesses, it was a stake. Um, and I don't know if they like celebrate his resurrection, and I would have to look back up into what they believe, because I know some Christian denominations or sects don't believe that he was physically resurrected. Um, so I would have to look into that again to see if that was the Jehovah's Witnesses or not. But yeah, just different times and days of remembrances. Like, I see it such a stark contrast to my circles, because we do Christmas and Easter, but like it's really like beyond that. Like it's not really even uh that much of a requirement or anything. And like I don't know if it's for some reason I always go back to Ecclesiastes where he's talking about everything is vanity, and it's kind of sarcastic, kind of a pessimistic view where everything is vanity, like everything is just vain, like nothing is important. And of course, at the end, he kind of like explains why he was saying that. But like, and maybe it's not that, but I think it's more of the we're not going to cling to traditions and things just for traditions and all of this because like really it doesn't matter. Like ceremonies we don't care about. Like I guess, and from a especially a grace believer, like anything done on this earth, it is kind of like pointless, but it's not because uh, your works done in a saved life like do count as for rewards, but like celebrations and holidays don't gain anything. So I think a lot of what we see, it's like I'm not going to say pointless, but it's not necessary, and we're just going to have fun with it. If anything, like that's what we do with Easter and Christmas. We have fun with it. It's just a fun time. Um, and that kind of leads me to a question for you. What do you do for Christmas? Like, do you celebrate Christmas? Like, or the holiday season? Like, what is that to you? Because I know you have a Santa hat on and you like the holiday season.
I do like
So,
the holiday
what
season.
does it mean to you, or what do you do for it?
I so for me, honestly, it's more of a an observance of winter, of um, the seasonal importance of the winter solstice, and a lot of a lot of what I see is holiday festivities are efforts to stave off the gloom and
Especially all the
depression.
warm soups and fresh baked breads.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and desserts,
You got
pumpkin
you
bread.
last year, like because I've seen you for the past years, like baking delicious like pumpkin breads and stuff like that
Oh
got
yeah.
me off last year. Like, okay, I'm doing all this stuff too. Like,
It really is like the food you make, the food you cook and prepare, especially for other people, is really like that act of sharing, and I guess act of generosity, and like really brings people together. Like I know the winter before the pandemic, I would bake pumpkin bread at least every other week and just bring in a huge load of it to work, and it's like, here guys, feast.
that's
Um
awesome.
and warm potato lentil soup. Mm, you know. Oh yeah.
Yeah, right around this time of the year, more October-ish, when it starts getting really cold, like that's for me, it's chili season. Like now it's the seasons are changing after that first batch.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Potato lentil soup and my peanut butter stew.
Yes. I just made pho last night.
Oh man.
Um, like it was kind of a poor man's pho because I didn't have like whole spices or anything, but
And you didn't,
that
boil the broth for a whole day.
actually we did. Like that was legit broth that we
Oh
had,
wow.
and it was amazing. But I can't wait to make it for real. That's probably going to become another seasonal thing of mine.
I need to find a good vegetarian pho recipe because
Yeah, that would be amazing.
mm, yeah.
It's just a unique blend. Like, yeah, like the seasons, like it's like the food for some reason is such an important aspect to the holidays. Um, you know, I don't know if there's a traditional food for like Christmas. Usually, you see like kind of a Thanksgiving dinner for Christmas, which I don't like Thanksgiving dinners anyways. Or like a ham thing, which I don't really like. I usually like to make more like ethnic foods and stuff. I always try to do like a Middle Eastern kind of style dinner during the holiday
Mm.
seasons. And, throughout the year I do that a lot too, but or for Easter or something. Um, well, not for Easter, but around Easter time too. Um, Food is such a huge part of the celebration. And I think that kind of does go back to the agricultural aspect of like the seasonal
Yeah.
celebrations, because there's harvest and all of that, and uh, celebrating with what you have in your store of food and everything. Like,
Oh yeah.
I think that just bleeds through the years, that we just, for some reason, that's just something we do. um
Yeah.
and
It's
it is a great time for remembering, like, getting together with family. And some people don't see family until Christmas Day. Like, they never see their family until Christmas Day, or um, everything like that. Just taking a break and slowing down for a spell.
yeah. Yeah, talking about food, uh I mean, one made me hungry, but
I knew you were going to say that.
two, um there is a, a a slight tradition. I don't know how popular it is, but I love the idea, and I want to do it on like on Bodhi Day, or even Vesic, when you're kind of commemorating the enlightenment of the Buddha. I've read that it's it can be tradition to make milk rice, which is what was given to the Buddha before he, at the moment of him realizing, food is good for you. Um, and when he realized the middle way, like, oh, we should eat or we would starve, and then we can't practice the Dhamma if we do that. And so I love the idea of like making that meal, that same the same yeah the same meal that the Buddha had and was given, even in this act of compassion,
Hmm,
and thinking, oh wow, this is important. um
hmm.
and I just like that, and I think I want to do that. I think a few years ago I did make a very uh makeshift attempt with like probably coconut milk in some rice or something, uh but yeah, the food seems to permeate a lot of tradition.
I did think of one thing for like the Easter time. Um, I don't know how traditional this is or how many people do, but a lot of times you'll see lamb be prepared. You see that kind of in connotation with like Jesus was the Lamb of God, um, sacrifice, but also the Lamb of judgment as well. And that's right around Passover. So you see the blood, like the lamb's blood on the doorposts and everything, for the passing over of the angel of death and everything. So I could see that being a traditional, and maybe I'll have to break out some lamb. I have a story for you off air. Just remind me, lamb.
Okay.
um, yeah, yeah. So many fun things about the holiday. I, for some reason, used to hate the season because it's always cold and bitter. But like last year, I really embraced my northern roots, and I'm like, you know what? I love winter now. Like, this is amazing. Maybe it's because I got Anna, my wife Anna made me some amazing gloves, mittens that, oh, man, like they're so amazing. Like, I can actually enjoy winter now with them for some reason. But I love this time of year now. Like, it used to be my least favorite. Now I'm just like, it's been rainy and cold and dreary for the last 2 or 3 days, and I love it. It's amazing.
Oh wow, I'm jealous. We've had some good days in the last couple days. This is September, by the way, guys. We're talking
Yeah,
about
it
September.
is it is September.
Of like low 70s, and it's been like this morning it was like 49 degrees out when I woke up, and I was like, whoa, I'm not prepared for this, but I'm ready. Um, but I mean, in a few days it's gonna be like 90 again. But I love winter. Fall and winter are my favorite seasons.
Yeah, fall is becoming mine. I do love summer, but now it's, maybe it's my old age or something. I mean, it's too hot.
I don't like summer.
But
It's
I
my
was
least
standing
favorite.
in knee deep snow at the end of last year's winter season and looking around, and I have video of it too. I'm like, I love this. This is amazing.
I mean, winter is the only season that I will like wish for during the other times of the years. Like I'll just
Hmm.
get nostalgic about winter, the just the pure silence. It's so beautiful and
The coziness of the warmth inside,
yes,
and
like
maybe it's like an emotional attachment or something, or
it
like an
is.
emotional like hearkening to that time.
It is. I
But
mean,
I do
like
have fond like looking forward to summers and springs as well too. So like I guess I'm well rounded, but
I
this time
yeah,
I'm just, especially with this podcast episode, I'm stoked for the
I know.
season. It's
Me too.
gonna be great.
All of you guys, all of you people watching this are lucky because you are in December.
Yeah. I wish it was December already.
Oh,
Well, is there anything else that we can mention about holidays or any further discussion or questions
oh
at all?
man,
What's the best holiday gift that you've ever received?
that I ever received.
Yeah.
I once had an answer for this. Honestly, when I think back to it, like, oh, what was the coolest thing that I got? And I was like, whoa, wow, that's so neat. It was the rock you gave me from Israel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was just like, wow, this is unique, and there's significance behind it that you know you don't get with a lot of other gifts.
Hmm. Oh, that's cool. I didn't really expect that, but that's pretty awesome.
Or
And when
my
I went to
neon clock
Israel,
that I got. I'm just
yes,
kidding. I
you
was in
still
like
have that,
middle
right?
school. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
right over here.
We have one in our church in one of the kids' rooms, and I always say, "Hey, look at that, kids! That's your uncle. Your uncle has the same thing." I'm like, whoa.
Oh man.
Yeah, when I went to Israel, like I didn't really buy a whole lot of souvenirs. I just purposely picked up like rocks and pieces. I already said like I have like a little olive twig from Capernaum, and a rock from there, and from the Sermon on the Mount location, and some stuff from Megiddo, like Tel Megiddo, and some like Galilee and the Mediterranean Sea and everything. Um, I think I do have a T-shirt, and I grew my beard there, and it's never gone away since.
That's awesome.
So I'm glad that rock could be a cool gift for you.
Yeah, I am a sucker for small little things of spiritual significance.
Yeah, yeah, and if you ask me the same question,
I was about to.
I don't even know, man. I do have a story though here, and I've told this before with the same kind of question. Now, there was a time when I was younger, and I really wanted the coolest, latest electronic devices or whatever, and I asked for it for Christmas, didn't get it. What did I get instead? I got a parka, a large winter parka, and I'm like, what in the world is this? Like, and I was ungrateful at the time, but as I grew, I worked retail in a negative 20-degree freezer. And you know what saved my life in that situation? Parka. And then I moved to a northern cold state. And you know what saved my lives? And I still wear it every winter? Parka. And I think like going through the years, like I am so appreciative of that gift that I was gifted a parka because it is the warmest thing I've ever worn
I
during the
love that
winters.
parka.
Yes,
It is
it's amazing.
so amazing.
Yep.
And you know what? That same year I got an iPod. I don't have that iPod anymore.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, there's so much I could say about like consumerism and the
Oh yeah.
holidays. I
Yeah.
mean, I have a whole album of parody songs
Yes, you do.
specifically about decrying the consumeristic takeover of the holiday season.
The retail emphasis. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that's not, you don't even have to be spiritual or religious to appreciate the holidays without having to make it about presents and sales.
Yep.
Like,
Exactly. Exactly.
Whatever
So-
the reason for the season for you, it doesn't have to be Black Friday deals and making sure you get someone something that's worth something more than $30 or whatever,
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
don't
Yeah.
make it about that.
To me, like gift giving is fun, but it's not like like you shouldn't expect or have those high expectations, or on the reverse, like the stress of it. That just ruins the whole season.
Yeah.
And I know you can like get on a soapbox about this stuff because you have, and it's recorded on in MP3s available at barefootbrand.com.
For free, I might add.
Yeah, so get it for your loved ones this holiday season. Link in the description below.
Yeah. I know some people don't appreciate me taking their beloved holiday classics and turning them into Black Friday protest songs. But it's necessary.
I mean, from my circles, some of them could be sacrilegious, but yeah, that's holidays for you, man. I
Yeah.
can't wait for on this end of September. I can't wait. And, those of you who are listening and watching, enjoy the day, enjoy the season, enjoy the rest of the year. And we'll look forward to a brand new year, a brand new season of the Baptist and the Buddhist.
Yes.
And it is going to be fun. This is basically the season finale right here.
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So like
you-
next season, guys, you're in for a treat. It's gonna be amazing.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So if anything else we need to, follow us, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Now we're tweeting,
YouTube.
YouTube, all the podcasts. Like, subscribe, notification bell. Leave a review, comment, email us, all that stuff.
Write a letter.
Yes, write a letter to an address which we will not disclose.
An email address.
Email address baptistandbuddhist@gmail.com. There you go. So I think at that, this has been The Baptist
And the Buddhist.
with Mark.
And Brian.
And to all of you out there, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and happy birthday, Jesus.
Happy holidays. Whatever you celebrate, whenever you celebrate.
Yes. And, enjoy. See y'all later.